Welcome back. I'm back. You're back. Hey, we back. Welcome everyone to this episode on the Ultimate Sports TV, guys. And most importantly, welcome to this edition of Ultimate Questions, the Q&A/mailbag segment where I answer your NFL/NBA questions. We got a lot of great questions to answer today on the show, and if you want to get your questions answered on the show, please make sure you go to my community tab section every Monday and post under the prompt your NBA or NFL question under the specific date that the prompt tells you to. Just make sure you put it under the right date so I'll be able to make sure I can get your question in the right time, because if you don't put it under the right prompts, I probably will not see it. But guys, can't wait to get into this week's Ultimate Questions for the NBA and NFL Q&A segment. But before I get into this, please make sure you subscribe to the Ultimate Sports TV, because if you're not subscribed, you're missing out on so much, people, because this is the hot spot. Get lots and lots of hot from the Ultimate Sports TV spot with NBA and NFL content. So go ahead, hit that subscribe button, and join the TSTV squad. Then when you're done with that, please like this video for me, share this video and YouTube channel. Also, while you're watching, comment your reactions to each question and each answer in the comment section below, guys. But now let's get into this week's questions for Ultimate Questions. Let's get into it. Alright, this first question here comes from my buddy Xavier Sumlin, and he asks, can you speak on the serve injury that had taken place on Giannis and what could be the ultimate nightmare for the Milwaukee Bucks of him having an ACL injury? And also, what do you think is going to happen with the Bucks and any sort of chance of them advancing or putting up a great fight against the Hawks, taking into account how they play the rest of the game without Giannis and resulting in their devastating loss? Now, when you look at this injury for the Bucks and for Giannis, obviously it's bad because the Bucks lose their alpha dog, they lose their most dominating piece on their team, and that's going to definitely have an effect on the defensive side of the ball and also how this team gets into the paint, because Giannis definitely contributes a lot with those paint points getting inside, and that's definitely a huge factor when he puts up so many points in the paint area. Now, how does it affect the Bucks and how will it affect this series? I think the Hawks are going to win this series. When I look at it, the Hawks showed that even without Trae Young, knowing that the Bucks don't have Giannis, they were able to overpower them offensively and defensively. This team is just too good offensively for the Bucks to try and stop them right now without a defensive guy like Giannis. And even if Trae Young comes back, that's an even different story, because you have to worry about someone else offensively, knowing you don't have your best player there, knowing you have to stack up already on the other guys they have, like Clint Capella and like John Collins, like Lou Williams, like Bogdanovich. They have a lot of good offensive guys that they can go to, and losing Giannis does not help that. And when you have a guy that contributes to so many points in the paint, when you're facing a team offensively that scores so many points, it's not going to be easy to match those points knowing you lost a big time scorer and Giannis. So I think the Hawks are going to win this series. I think it's going to be a 6-game, 7-game series, but ultimately the Hawks are going to win this series because they will be overmatching the Bucks offensively, because Giannis will look to be gone this really entire series. All right, moving on to the next one. My guy Landon Sumlin asks, who do you think will win the finals? Any predictions? Now, obviously, the Suns have moved on, and I think the Hawks are going to move on to the finals. And I'll say, for instance, the Bucks move on, I think that I'll give that to the Suns there, just because I don't think the Bucks will have Giannis and they end up not having him. Then the Suns are just going to overpower the Bucks with star power offensively and defensively. Now, when we're looking at a Hawks-Suns matchup, when I look at that matchup, I just see the Suns overpowering and overmatching the Hawks in everything. We see the superstar that the Hawks have in Trae Young, and we see the superstar that the Suns have in Devin Booker. But the Suns also have Chris Paul. Now, we look at the Clint Capella and DeAndre Ayton matchup. That's pretty evenly matched. We see John Collins on the Hawks. And then we see Jay Crowder and Dario Saric over on the Phoenix side of things. And then we see the benches. And to me, you could arguably give the better bench title over to the Suns, because they have been more consistent throughout these playoffs. You look at games like Game 2 in the Eastern Conference Finals for the Hawks, their bench was looking really streaky then. They had one good game before, then you come out and really just poop on yourself and then allow the Bucks to blow you out by 40 points. So obviously the Suns bench with Cameron Payne, with Cameron Johnson, with Mikal Bridges, with Jay Crowder, they have been more consistent throughout the playoffs. And then when you add Devin Booker and Chris Paul to that as your superstars, that really overpowers you and puts it over the top. So I'm going to say the Suns win the NBA Finals because of their star power and how they're matched with other teams. Alright people, this next question comes from Mixed Bolt, and they ask, what kind of year do you expect from Baker Mayfield? Look, I think he's going to have a cameo as an MVP candidate. He's going to be in the MVP conversation from October to like November or something. He's going to have a little naysay and a little discussion as an MVP candidate like Ryan Tannehill did last year in October and November when he was just playing out of his mind and he ended with a good season. I think Baker is going to have a pretty nice season. Now look, he knows the system now. He's finally in a system that he did well in last year and that he is comfortable in. And he's going to be boosted in a year where the offense will be evolving. They're going to have to pass more, and he'll be getting Odell back. Now, people, he put up ridiculous stats down the stretch with time in the system last year. Look, when Kevin Stefanski saw it was time for Baker to really up the ante in the system and he saw that he was comfortable in it, he threw more, and down the stretch he had better stats, and this team won more, obviously, because he fit and showed out in the system. Now, this year, the pass game is going to have to be even more of a factor because the run game is going to need help, and because teams are going to figure out and sell out for the run, and you're going to have to need something to fall back on, and that is going to be the pass game. And it's going to help Baker to really improve this pass game because he's in a comfortable system and because he's getting Odell back. Because he lost Odell last year, he didn't get better because he lost Odell. He got better within the time in the system. So getting Odell back when he knows his system and needs to get better as a passer, having a guy like Odell back will really help him, and that means the pass game will be scary. I see Baker being like Ryan Tannehill from last year, just finishing with better stats. Now look, Ryan Tannehill last year, he got comfortable in the system, and the system had to evolve by passing the ball and not having just teams sell out to stop Derrick Henry and you not having anything to do about it. And it helped that Ryan Tannehill had A.J. Brown, and he had Corey Davis, and he had Derrick Henry to shut up the play action. And then Ryan Tannehill arguably helped the run game because he made the pass game a threat because he was comfortable in the system and he had the weapons to really evolve the pass game. And I think that is what Baker will be able to do this year. Baker will have an MVP cameo for like 3 or 4 weeks this season, and those are my reasons why. And he's going to finish with some pretty nice stats. Alright, this next question comes from Dance King Marquis, and he asks, would you expect Donovan Mitchell to request a trade after coming up short in the playoffs once again? Now, this year, I don't expect him to request a trade just because he's so loyal to the Jazz, and I think he'd be able to give them like one more year. But here's what the Jazz have got to do. They've got to trade for a superstar this year. They've got to go look for a Bradley Beal. They've got to go look for Damian Lillard or Paul George to help out Donovan Mitchell, because no one is ever there in crunch time or the important moments to show up and go to battle with him. So they're going to need to do that, and next year, get that help and at least get to the conference finals to have some moral victory or something, because you've never been in the conference finals with Donovan Mitchell. Get this man some help so he can finally get to the NBA finals, and that's what the Jazz have got to do to keep Donovan Mitchell. But I don't think he's going to request a trade this year. It's more a possibility that it happens next year. Alright, this next question comes from Balabadude, and they ask, what team is the biggest threat to the Buccaneers? Now, the team that is the biggest threat to the Buccaneers in the NFC, to me, it has to be the Rams, and they have the formula to knock off the Buccaneers, and they showed us that last year in a regular season game where they totally spanked the Buccaneers on Monday Night Football, and they definitely showed the formula, and that was with Jared Goff. Now they have Matthew Stafford, who can definitely rival your pass game as a great quarterback in this game with the combinations and weapons he has around him, with the receivers in Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp, with the running back in Cam Akers, who is going to thrive in that run-heavy offense, with a pretty nice offensive line, and with a great play caller in Sean McVay. And then they have the defense that can really disrupt Tom Brady in that Buccaneers offense. They have a defense who can definitely get in your head in the pass defense. And then they have the pass rush with Aaron Donald. They have it all to stop the Buccaneers. They can keep the ball out of their hands by rushing the ball. Even if they can't keep the ball out of their hands, they still have the pass game to rival their pass game. And even if they don't want the Buccaneers' pass game getting in the way, they have the defense to try and stop the Buccaneers. So they have an old school offense and a new school offense mixed with the defense that can keep another team from scoring, guys. So I think the Rams are the biggest threat in the NFC to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and a great question there from Blob Dude. Alright people, this next question comes from TKM, and they say, Name 6 NFL breakout players in 2021. Now, this is one of my favorite questions in the offseason, and I'm glad TKM asked this question here. But one breakout player I'm going to name here, and I'm going to get through this quickly. One is J.K. Dobbins. He's in an offense that fits perfectly for him. He had 800 yards last year. I think he is going to shine this year. Jacob Phillips. He has Malcolm Smith and he has Anthony Walker around him. Malcolm Smith was a top 10 pass coverage linebacker last year. He's going to help Jacob Phillips, and Anthony Walker definitely helped Darius Leonard turn into the linebacker that he is. And whenever Jacob Phillips was on the field last year, his presence was felt through the pass game and the run game. Then I've got Alex Highsmith, who also had his presence felt last year on the Steelers defensive line. I think he's going to be good next to TJ Watt, Cam Hayward, and Stephon Tuitt. Then we have Russell Gage, who had a pretty nice year last year. Is going to get more reps this year with Julio Jones gone, and I think he's a good number 2 wide receiver next to Calvin Ridley. Now, Cam Akers is a guy who I think will evolve into a better running back this year, and Ronnie Harrison, who I think is a 4-year guy. He's on the Browns. He's a safety. I think he's going to have a great year this year, and he had a great year last year, and arguably could have been a Pro Bowler last year. And I think with John Johnson by his side this year, he is really going to prosper into a better safety with some help, guys. So those are my breakout candidates, and guys I think will break out for 2020. Not just guys I think could break out, but guys who I think will break out in 2021 as some pretty nice players. All right, people, this final question comes from Sheila A, who asks, what pieces and parts do you think the Browns have to have in place in order to win a Super Bowl this year? Now, that's a great question. Obviously, the Browns going into this year are Super Bowl contenders with their fiery offense that can do well passing and running especially. Have a great offensive line. Have a defense that improved in the offseason and is likely going to be a top 5 defense this year. This team has all the pieces and parts, but what are the essential pieces and parts? To me, the passing game has to evolve, like I said early in this video when I was talking about Baker Mayfield. This running game is going to have something to fall back on, and that passing game needs to be it. With Odell back, adding that to Baker, who is finally in a comfortable system, they're going to need a pass game to rival all these other great pass games in the AFC and even guys in the NFC when you face someone in the Super Bowl. And this defense is going to have to step up. This defensive line is going to have to get pressure, and most importantly, this secondary is going to have to live up to the hype that everyone is giving them this offseason with the additions they've had with Greg Newsome, with John Johnson, getting Grant Delpit back, and getting Troy Hill, guys, and already having Denzel Ward and Greedy Williams in that secondary, guys. But this is it for this week's Q&A, ultimate questions for NBA and NFL questions. Remember to ask yours. Get to the community section every Monday and post your prompt under the right prompt that says the date for the day that I will be doing these ultimate questions, guys. But this is it for me. This is Malik Hicks, aka the Rank of the Ultimate Sports TV, signing off. Hope you enjoyed this edition of Ultimate Questions. Peace out, and I'll see you in my next one.